Hello again, everybody. So, fun stuff today. This is Gossip Finance. I'm Duncan Sandlin. All right, we're going to cover Trump and his not being able to pay his legal fines or secure a bond. So, just to get this real simple for you guys. So, he's been found civilly liable in civil court for one, he did the E. Jean Carroll for the defamation for the rape thing. He was able to secure a bond for that, and then he's got another one where he was found civilly liable for multiple counts of fraud. And then he owes now it was $355 million that the judge said, but with interest it ends up being like 460 something now, and it's still racking up every day. So what happens is after you get these judgments, since in the past people have tried to stiff paying the court these judgments before and filed appeals and delayed and tried to move money overseas or move them in other people's names, the court has a system where they give you 30 days. 30 days from when the judgment's filed, you have to come up with a bond before they start to seize assets. So you have 30 days to do that. And if you do that, then you can appeal and whatnot. If you appeal, then you get your money back from the bond. Or after 30 days, if you don't put it up, the court can go and start seizing your assets and your bank accounts and things like that. So that's where he's at now. So in the first case with the E. Jean Carroll, she was awarded $83.3 million total. So that case, if you guys don't remember, was she came out in 2019 and said he raped her. He said she lied and defamed her. And then she took him to court. The court determined, yeah, he did rape her. A jury of 9 people said, yep, he raped her. He's an adjudicated rapist, and then he lied to defame her and make her seem like a liar and ruin her reputation. So she was awarded, the first case she was awarded $5 million, then he did it again, and she sued him again, not the rape, the defamation. She sued him again for defamation for 83.3, and she got 83.3. She didn't ask for that, but that's what she got. And then he's done it again, so we'll see if she sues him a third time. Now, he was able to post a bond on that, and I think the bond was around $91 million. And he got it from this company called Chubb, CHUBB. And the guy there, Greenberg, is the CEO, did it, and he got some kickback from it. But we're going to jump into that and kind of what that is and what that looks like.
And this just into CNN, we have learned that Donald Trump is appealing an $83 million judgment against him in the E. Jean Carroll defamation case. Now, this comes as a key deadline looms. He has until Monday to hand over that money after the judge turned down his request for more time. The judge says Trump's had more than a month to get his finances in order. He was ordered to pay Carroll damages as a result of a defamatory statements he made while denying that he raped her. Well, this case playing out.
So that's already lapsed. That's already passed. He got the bond up, so it's waiting for appeal. So the money is sitting with the court in a bond that this insurance company put up. So the way that works is this. He goes to the insurance company. He puts up collateral on a loan. The insurance company loans him the bond. They put it up with the court. All right. If his appeal gets denied or he goes to appeal and loses, that money then goes, the insurance company pays that money. It goes directly to the victim, in this case, E. Jean Carroll, and her attorney and all that. And the insurance company is now on the hook for collecting the money from Trump, and they charge him an interest, so they get paid on that too. Well, to do that, Trump had to put up most of it in cash, like 50 or 60 million of the 91 in cash, and then the rest of it was properties. Now, there was some kickback about, well, Chubb, why'd you guys do this? Greenberg is that CEO. Why'd you do this? That you're letting him off the hook, blah, blah, blah. In fact, I'm going to disagree. I think this is fine what Chubb did, and I personally, if I were an insurance company, I might have done it too. But let me go into this article real quick. So here is Chubb CEO defends backing Trump appeal bond in E. Jean Carroll case. So the CEO of Chubb, company defended subsidiary providing former President Trump with $91.6 million appeal bond in the case where he was found liable for defaming E. Jean Carroll after she accused him of rape. Okay. So he goes down and he just basically says, in his defense, he wrote a letter to his shareholders and to the public. Basically, Greenberg wrote that the bond has nothing to do with the underlying merits of the appeal or with favoring any of the parties in the case. When Chubb issues an appeal bond, it isn't making judgments about the claims, even when the claims involve alleged reprehensible conduct. He goes on to say, as the surety, we don't take sides. It would be wrong for us to do so. And we are in no way supporting the defendant. We are supporting and are part of the justice system, plumbing included in this case. So Chubb has been under fire about that. So he went on to talk in the letter, and he did say some stupid stuff in the letter. I'm not going to disagree, where he goes, if the bond is called, then Chubb takes the collateral, which is intended to make us whole. So they've got the collateral in Trump. We hardly support or subsidize defendants or take one for the team. And he didn't say what the collateral was. I'm sure it's substantial amounts of real estate and bank accounts and things like that. But yeah, and he said, in a matter of policy, we do not confirm or deny whether we are engaged in business discussions with businesses or individuals, blah, blah, blah. But he does mention at one point that he thought that, he mentions that it's basically that they're not the trier of fact and they don't know what the facts are and it hasn't been deemed, and it's like, well, no, it's been adjudicated. So kind of a stupid letter to write, but ultimately he gets the point. The point is, this is actually good for E. Jean Carroll, because when the appeal either gets shot down or gets reversed in court or whatever it is, E. Jean Carroll instantly gets her money. She doesn't have to go chase it down now. As where before, she'd have had to, her lawyer and her would have had to go try to seize assets, seize property, seize his bank accounts, whatever. So now she just gets paid. So this is actually good for the defendant. So I don't have a problem with this from Chubb. I think that's perfectly fine. Now, this runs into the other problem. He did this at the last minute. Now, the question is he did this at the last minute at a kind of an obscure way to do it, an obscure surety company to do it. So the question was, well, will he be able to get the 454, almost 500 million for the other stuff, for the fraud case? And it seemed unlikely, because if this is all he could get to cover the 91 million, how's he going to cover almost 5 times that? So it turns out he's not at this point. He's got till Monday. Don't count him out. He might actually come up with it. I don't know how, but he might. But we'll go into this and talk a little bit about what's going on and what his options are, and why he's probably ostensibly broke.
25 past the hour, turning now to breaking news from former President Donald Trump's legal team. Just in the last hour, Trump's lawyers said in an appeals court filing that Trump has not been able to get a bond to secure the $464 million fraud judgment against him after his New York civil fraud case. His attorneys say getting the bond needed to halt proceedings while they appeal is a, quote, practical impossibility. Joining us now from Arizona, NBC News correspondent Vaughn Hilliard and Glenn Kirshner, former federal prosecutor and an MSNBC legal analyst. So, Vaughn, what more did we learn from what Trump's lawyers said in this filing?
Jose, this is a direct acknowledgement by Donald Trump and his legal team that they are not able to put up the cash or be able to get a bond by this upcoming Monday, March 25th deadline, for that more than $450 million that he owes in damages stemming from the financial fraud lawsuit that he lost in the Lower Manhattan from the New York Attorney General's office.
So that's what it is. So he filed a motion saying, or his attorneys did, saying, we can't get this. We can't get the bond. So we don't have the money, essentially. And they asked for more time or to reduce the amount, which probably isn't going to happen. But that means he can't get it. He doesn't have the cash. So what are the options here for getting the bond? We can look at that real quick. I'm going to do I'll just put up a little PowerPoint for you guys that I made. So if he doesn't pay it, all right, he's got 512 properties that can be seized and sold. Here's the question, though. It's minus what he owes on the properties. How much does he owe? Because he might not own them outright. He might have huge loans or leases or mortgages on these things. So, take Trump Tower, for example. They're talking about that, but he doesn't technically own Trump Tower. The bank he went through owns Trump Tower. He just has a lease mainly on his apartment. The question is then has he taken out, like he's 40 Wall Street, that's a big office building that he owns, but has he taken out loans with that as collateral already on these other loans? So you can't use that as collateral on multiple loans, right? So it's a dependence on what he owes. So it might not be that he's worth $1 billion even. It might be he's only worth a few hundred million at most because he owes so much money. The other thing that will happen pretty much immediately is they'll freeze his bank accounts and his cash accounts and seize that. And they'll just confiscate it. Any other sort of real property that could be paintings, cars, planes, those things are all up for grabs too. So that's option one, is that he doesn't pay it. Option two is he posts the bond, which we talked about. Now, he can either put the money up in cash if he has it, but apparently he doesn't have the cash. He can get it from a surety or a brokerage firm, which is what he's talking about. And what they claim is they went and looked, they talked to 30 different brokerage firms, or surety firms, and 4 different brokerage firms. But of course, they're going to want collateral. They're going to want property or cash or whatever. So does he? But like he said, does he own the buildings? Is this going to be something that's hard to seize later on? Is it encumbered by some other loans or debts that they can't get to it? So if that's the collateral, you're not going to want to take it. And so the question is, what does he owe on all these properties? And is it really worth it because you have to fighting off other creditors to get your money? Or he could just put the assets up with a court. And this is how we know he's broke. Because what he could do is he could go to the court and he could say, okay, I'm going to put up X amount in cash, whatever cash he has available, and I'm going to basically sign over the titles temporarily to the court, as collateral to these properties. And the court would take that as a bond. Because then what would happen is if the appeal gets denied or he loses the appeal, the court would then just go seize those assets because he'd already pretty much signed over the titles in the bond. So the court could have done this and issued the bond, essentially. The problem with that is, and the reason I don't think he's doing it, is because if he does that, all these properties that he'd have to put up as collateral, he'd have to show the court how much he owes on them and how much it is. And I'm betting if he's underwater, he doesn't want to do that because then it would be public knowledge. We'd all know how broke he is. So he can't do that because then he'd have to give up the ghost and show that I'm really not worth what I said I'm worth. And I think that's the issue, because otherwise he could just do it right now and be done with it. It wouldn't be a big deal if he were really that rich, and he'd be off. He'd be off to his appeal. And if he wins the appeal, which he's probably not likely going to do, but if he does, then he'd get all that stuff back, and it'd be like nothing happened. Right? Now he's looking at having all that seized, or having his cash seized, or his ability to do business frozen. The next option he has is he can file for bankruptcy. Now, this doesn't forgive the payment, doesn't forgive what he owes. The $454 million does not get forgiven. What it does is the bankruptcy court will look at what are all of his collective debts, right? What are his collective assets? And then they'll pay off as much of his debts as he can pay off, and the rest will end up being forgiven, but he'll have to be ostensibly broke. I mean, he'll have to be really low income for him. For most people, the court's not going to let him keep millions and millions of dollars. So that's essentially what he could do. And if he had the assets and stuff to pay it off, he could just pay it off. And this might be the best way to go, because he'd still end up being fairly rich. He'd just clear it all out, but he wouldn't be a billion. He definitely wouldn't be a billionaire. Might be, tens of millions or 100 million or something like that. But this would be a great option for him, and it would be great for the court because whatever there is that they can get would already been seized by the bankruptcy court. He'd have had to give it over to file bankruptcy. So it doesn't forgive the debts, but it does delay things a little bit. The last thing he could do. Well, okay, first before that, the bankruptcy thing, he's not going to file bankruptcy, because if he files bankruptcy, he's basically given up the election, because his whole mythology is that he's this brilliant businessman and multi-billionaire. If he files for bankruptcy, or if he put up the assets with the court, any of those things, he's admitting he doesn't have the money, and he's been lying. He's not really worth that much money, because if he had it, he'd have done it. There's no reason for him not to do it and just get it settled and move on to the appeal. especially if he thinks he's going to win the appeal, which I doubt. But so this whole this whole shell game is basically the guy who goes out to dinner, can't afford the bill, and is trying to tap dance to get out of the tab. That's essentially what he's doing right now. So those are his real options, right? The other thing about it is the last thing, and this is the big question, is if he's such a rich, popular guy, he could get the money in cash. He might be able to get it from like a foreign government, or from somebody in like Saudi Arabia or Russia or something like that. The problem with that is he'd have to disclose it to the court. And the court probably won't accept it, because if it's taken and it looks like a bribe, they might not accept it. The other thing you could do in a cash loan is some of these Trump-supported billionaires could loan him the money. The one thing he can't do is he cannot pay it out of his campaign finance money. So he can't raise the campaign money to pay off his fines. So kind of a difficult position, which is this would be easy if he really were a billionaire, right? Because if you figure he's worth, let's say he's worth $8 billion, which is what he claims, 500 million out of that is what, 1/16 of his money? I mean, which is painful. That's a lot of money, right? But you figure a 16th, let's say you were a millionaire, just for example, and you got tagged by the court, that would be a $62,000 check. It's a lot of money still, but you're a millionaire. This is what that's like to him. If he's worth $8 billion, this would be like a millionaire writing a $62,000 check. So, I mean, just to give you sort of an example of what it looks like. If you can't write that, it means he's doesn't have it. He's significantly less on the chain as far as the money's concerned. If you can't get the bond, that means he doesn't have that much even in assets that are unencumbered that a company will take. Plus, what little he probably does have, he's overinflated the values. That's what this whole fraud, he wouldn't owe this money if he didn't done that. That's what the whole court found, is that he'd overinflated the values. So this is like me going to like my mom and saying, "Hey mom, can I borrow $100,000? And she goes, "Okay, well what for?" "Well, I got in trouble with the court and I owe $100,000 to the court to set up a bond." "Well, why do you owe $100,000? "Well, I took out all these loans because I had this jewelry and I told them the jewelry was worth $100,000, but it's not." And my mother goes, "Okay, well, all right, well, if I give you the $100,000, how are you going to pay me back?" "Well, I got all this jewelry." That's essentially what he's doing. I lied about the value of my properties to get loans. "Oh, okay. Hey, what do you have to put up for collateral?" "My properties that I'm lying about." So he's kind of screwed in both ways. We'll get into a little bit more here, because this whole thing just cracks me up. So he's got that problem. He's not paying it, which is kind of shocking to me. The other thing is he did kind of bullshit his way through the argument in the motion to try and delay, and the district attorney Letitia James came back and kind of stomped on him. And I've got a clip here from Michael Popak, and he's going to cover it probably a little bit better than I will, because he used to be a federal lawyer.
And all of the improper and just plain wrong factual assertions in there by people, particularly affiants, people who filed affidavits that have already been found by the New York judge, Judge Engoron, to lack credibility and or to be involved in the very fraud that the Donald Trump is involved with. Yes, Donald Trump used at least one person, Alan Garten, his general counsel, who was already judged by the Judge Engoron, to have been a participant in the very fraud that created the judgment for which they are seeking the bond. But to Donald Trump, he's like, put Alan Garten in, let him file an affidavit.
So just to sum that up, so the guy who wrote the motion and affidavit to try and get a delay on making this payment because they can't get the bonds was Alan Garten, who happens to be one of the guys who was involved in the fraud that he's got this judgment on for. And the guy was already deemed by the court, by the judge, to not be credible. So we have an uncredible person that was a part of the fraud, basically saying to the court, hey, give us a delay and whatnot. And part of his argument, which to boot, was, you don't have to worry about it. He's a billionaire. He's good for it. From the guy who overinflated the values of his properties to get loans from banks that he couldn't afford. And when they tell the banks, oh, don't worry about it. We're good for it. It's the same shit over and over. I mean, it just amazes me. Letitia James did make a great argument, though, that, you know, you don't have to get just one bond. And if he had the money, he could put it up. And if he had the collateral, he could just put it up with the court. So there's really no excuse here. So let's go into, like, I want to go into this clip just because it cracks me up. We're going to watch a little bit of this. Let's see. I think this is, let's see if this is the right one real quick. Yep. This is Alina Habba on Fox News trying to talk about this, and it just kills me.
An attorney for former President Trump. Alina, good to have you with us. Thank you for being here today. Tell me a little bit about where you are in this process, because in terms of the appeals happening or the appeals court deciding, the appellate division deciding that perhaps they're going to make some modifications to this judgment.
Right. Well, our argument in front of the appellate division is that forcing him to sell prized properties such as Trump Tower, iconic properties like 40 Wall Street, to pursue his appeal is manifest injustice, and it deprives him of that due process that we are all entitled to. So imagine you can't reverse selling off Trump Tower on a fire sale at a discounted price. We can't fix that if we win on an appeal. So it's complete injustice. And only a handful of sureties, as we stated, are approved by the United States Department of Treasury to even underwrite bonds of this size.
So she just lied about everything. One, Trump Tower, he doesn't own it. In fact, I've got it right here. GMAC Commercial Mortgage. As of 2021, the building official owner is GMAC Commercial Mortgage, according to the New York City Department of City Planning. He doesn't even own Trump Tower. It's not his. The other thing about it is, she's talking about, well, it's not due process. It is due process. He's already been found liable. And this was what the fine was. And nobody's forcing him to sell it. They're saying you either come up with the cash or you come up with a bond pending the appeal, and then after the appeal, you got to come up with the cash. Nobody's forcing him to sell any specific thing. But once again, it's only a force if he doesn't have the money. If he had the money, or he had the collateral, it wouldn't be an issue. But that's the problem, is he doesn't. And that's where she kind of drops the whole ball. And she totally screwed up that case too, man. So, not that he would have won anyway, but still, she's an idiot. I just like pulling clips of her because she's so stupid, and everything that comes out of her mouth is just horse shit. But anyway, for one last clip, just because I want to pile on because this is so funny to me. This is the Emperor Has No Clothes. And we've been saying this for years. We've been saying it on this show for the year we've been in business. That it's all bullshit. He doesn't really have the money. He's cash poor. Everything's credit. And everything he owns is leveraged to the hilt. So he doesn't have any actual collateral there. He just bullshits people to get loans. And that's how he pays for everything. That's how most rich people do it. But here's another rich guy who does it. Kevin O'Leary. We've covered him before, admitting that he actually does it. He's on the trail defending Trump on this because he does the same shit. And he's on with the guy I love to hate, Larry Kudlow. And they're Fox legal contributors. So it's the triple threat old white guy dipshit convention here on Fox Business. We're going to jump right into it.
I don't know if you've ever been in a pickle like this with this mob justice, as Jonathan Turley calls it. But if you were Mr. Trump, what would you do? How would you proceed right now? What are you thinking?
Well, I think this case is not about Trump anymore, although he is in a pickle, as you suggest. But I think this is an assault on the American brand, when you think about it. The reason we're the #1 economy on earth is that we're able to attract capital from all around the world that knows that we have a system a court system that protects property rights, and there's an appeal system in place. And so when you get into a situation like this, everybody makes the assumption that there will be an appeal here, but it seems because of the size of this penalty against this infraction, whether they don't match up, it doesn't make sense, that he can't get an appeal. And I think what everybody's
He's so stupid. He filed for appeal. He can still file for appeal. He can file for appeal even while they're seizing his shit. He just has 30 days to put up the bond so they don't seize his shit while he's filing for appeal. That's it. That's all that's going on here. And the infraction, just this whole thing. Oh, yeah, the fine doesn't match the infraction. The fine is actually less than what Donald Trump profited off of his bullshit, off of his lies, off of this. And Gorin put that in his report, in his summary. I mean, I read it. It's 92 pages. A little long, but you know, it's entertaining because it's hilarious. The lies and shit are so blatant. It's like when you open your fridge and it's like the chocolate cake's missing, and so you ask your kid, "Hey, did you eat the chocolate cake?" And they're telling you, "No, I didn't eat the chocolate cake," and there's chocolate cake all over their face. I mean, that's basically the whole 92 pages is witness after witness saying that about Trump and his organization. So, yeah, no, he's got due process. This is the system. This is how it works. It's not going to hurt business. Nobody's going to not do business in the U.S. or New York. It's just dumb as shit. But he's got to do that because he does this kind of fraud. And he's frightened that it's like, oh, God, if they tag Trump, what are they going to do to me? That's part of what he's thinking here. Plus, I love that he doesn't answer the question. The question, what would you do? Well, what I would do is sit here and bitch and moan about the system. Because everybody wants to do business in a country, and especially in a country or a city where crime is rampant and you can commit as much fraud as you want and rip off as many people as you want. That's what attracts more business. Fucking retard. We'll get more into this because he's just, I love this.
Is asking for in the financial services industry, not just domestically, is when are the adults coming into this situation?
Yes, right.
When is there going to be someone who says, okay, this is not good for the American brand. This is not good for the brand of New York. This case goes well past Trump's presidency if he's elected, or this Attorney General's mandate. We're making case law that is I don't have a better word other than to say it's un-American.
Mob justice.
This is bad for Brett. Oh, guess how many businesses have said they're not going to do business in New York, or they're going to cease doing business in New York, or they're going to move their money out of New York banks. Guess how many have said that they're going to do that because of this? Zero. What the fuck is he talking about? I'm not going to do business in New York, the financial center of the world. Yeah. Because Trump got tagged for being a dipshit. That doesn't hurt the American brand. Just retarded. Let's see if we can get ahead a little bit. Oh, man. Okay, here we go. Let's jump into this.
What party you're from? What's going on here?
No, I agree.
This is unprecedented. It needs an adult to get in the room with the kids that have gone crazy and say, we've got to let this process go through appeal, whatever the fine is going to be.
They won't let them.
Well, but that's not American.
I know.
So that is what bothers me about it.
So let me go to Greg Jarrett about that. Greg, as we were talking on...
It's so stupid. It's not American, man. America, we're not a country of laws that we have to abide by laws. No. God, I love these guys. This is what happens when rich people, wealthy people cry and whine. The thing that I love about it is these guys love socialism. Absolutely love socialism. Except for when it applies to other people. They're all for it. He's all for, wait a minute, I should be given an extra pass. I should be given, tax breaks. I should, if I commit fraud, the government should cover me and pay for it with tax money. But if like me, for example, small business owner, right? None of my businesses are, big. I mean, we have less than 500 employees. We're small businesses. If I were to pull this shit, I'd be in jail. If I were pulling this kind of fraud. So no, I don't see justice here. Trump got fined. Big deal. The guy should be doing time, which is why I'm interested to see what the Manhattan DA case is, because it looks like he might do time for this. But we'll skip and we'll watch a little bit more, and then I'll wrap up.
My eyes are not so good reading off my own paper. But Kevin O'Leary, I think this is where it's going to go. Now, I was wondering, if he can't get to the Supreme Court, will you loan him the $460 million?
You know,
just to help, in order to protect America's name. Think of it that way.
To get the bond, he was able to get the 90+ million from Chubb.
Yeah.
I don't know of a bond more than 90 million. I don't recall one.
Yeah, you
and
can't
so
do
you
it.
need cash to back up the bond insurance. And so now we're talking about the terminology of seizing assets. That actually, that's foreign language to an American investor.
Right.
They want due process.
Seizing assets if you commit a crime. That's foreign to an American investor. Yeah, the government doesn't do that ever. Every government does that. Fucking bullshit. I love it though. Because that was the fourth option for Trump. Why can't he get a loan from his multi-millionaire billionaire buddies like Kevin O'Leary here? Kevin, why couldn't you just loan him the money? You know, it's just a bad thing that happened to him. Totally dodges the question. Why? Because Kevin O'Leary, one, wouldn't do it. Wouldn't in a million years. Because he knows Trump's a fraud and it's bullshit. This is all crap that he's spewing. He wouldn't trust Trump with a loan. He knows he's a liar. So Kevin O'Leary, of course he's not doing it. On top of that fact, though, this is his kissing Trump's ass, sucking Trump's dick campaign right now that he's doing. And so his whole spiel right now is, well, I can't say no, or I would never, or he can't say any of that shit, because he's hoping that maybe when Trump becomes president, if he wins, right, which I doubt, but we'll see. If Trump wins, Kevin O'Leary's like, maybe I can be Treasury Secretary. Maybe I can have a position as cabinet. Maybe I can talk him into, doing some deregulation on some deal for me or something like that. So, yep, this is just him. This is the shallow, white businessman in a bowler cap with an apple in front of his face kind of thing. Just sucking the big dog's dick, hoping for a bone. Oh God, I just love it. It's the wealthy white guy crybaby hour on Fox News with Larry Kudlow. Oh man. Anyway, that's my episode for now. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe, and catch us next time.